So today we're going to look at standard form. So this is the third lesson in this unit 2. So just to recall, the first lesson was on slope-intercept form. The second lesson was on point-slope form. And so our third lesson is on the last form called standard form of the linear function. So essential question is, what information does standard form of the linear equation reveal about the line? And here is your standard form. It's ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers and integers if possible, and a and b are both not 0. So again, ax plus by equals c. Notice when I say standard form, I don't talk about point, slope, y-intercept, any of those conversations. It's just ax plus by equals c. So we're going to kind of look at this form. There's some good things about this form. There's other things that I think point slope and slope intercept explain better, but this is standard form. So your first vocabulary word is standard form. And standard form of a linear equation is ax plus by equals c, where a, b, c are real numbers and a and b are not 0. So again, the same thing I just said on the first slide, but make sure you stop the video and write down those definitions. Example number 1, understanding standard form of a linear equation. So here's a storyline we're going to work through in this problem. Hannah will spend $150 on music festival tickets. So she's going to spend $150. Reserved seat tickets cost us $25 and general admission tickets cost us $10. How can we represent the situation with a linear equation? So again, the equation we're working with in this problem is going to be ax plus by equals c. And just to make it easy, we're going to have the values of the x and the y be the same. So x in this situation is going to represent, well, let's go reserve tickets. So x is going to be number of reserve and y is going to represent the number of general admission. Whoops. I'll back that up. General admission tickets. So because of that, since x is talking about reserved, we're going to go up there, and a is going to represent how much that reserved tickets are, because mathematically here we're going to put 25. And remember, x is the number of reserved tickets. So 25 times, let's say we want 4 reserved tickets, that will be $100 in reserved tickets. So 25 is the value of A. B, since y is talking about general admission tickets, we're going to come up here in the equation or the storyline, and $10 are for admission, general admission. So we're going to put 10y, because y, remember, is the number of admission tickets. So 10 times how many tickets we have. But we know C is going to equal 150, because that's all the money she has to spend at this concert. So just a reminder, this part of the equation is the money spent on reserve. So I'll just go dollars spent on the reserve seats or tickets. And this part is the money spent on the general admission tickets. And then this bottom part is just your total budget, or the 150. So this is all she has to spend. Her total budget. She's not going to spend any more than that. So that's our equation. 25x plus 10y equals 150. Again, notice I'm not talking about a point on the line. I'm not talking about the y-intercept. I'm not talking about the slope. I'm just going to put in the equation into the form that makes most sense to this problem, which in this case is standard form. says Hannah will spend $150, which we already knew. The reserve tickets again cost $25. The admission tickets or general admission cost $10. What information does standard form give you that slope-intercept form does not give you? Okay, so let's start with that standard form. So again, standard form is ax plus by equals c. In this case, it's 25 plus 10y equal to 150. So technically, this 25x is just information from the problem. The 10y is information from the problem. The only thing I know is that this 150 is what we call in math the constant. It's the part that's not going to change, or we also call it the constraint. It's the most money Hannah will spend. So we think about the word constraint or consistent. Constraint means that is like where it cannot go further. Kind of like if you build a dog fence in your backyard and you constrain it by putting a fence around it, that's as far as your dog should be able to go. Same thing here. $150 is the constraint. That's all Hannah wants to spend on these tickets. Slope-intercept form. So we're going to have to change it into slope-intercept form before we can use it. So I'll just write here. So remember, slope-intercept form gives us a slope and the y-intercept. Well, that was fun. There it goes. And so we're going to start with the standard form, and I'm going to flip it into slope-intercept form so we can spend some time looking at that. So our slope-intercept form is in the form of y equals mx plus b. So our goal is to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 25x from both sides first. And then we get 10y's equal negative 25x plus that $150 was our constraint. And we're going to divide everything by 10. So y equals negative 2.5x plus 15. So now we have a slope and a y-intercept. Now we're going to take a little bit of time and try to figure out what that totally means. So I'm going to graph it off the side. I'm a visual learner here. I think visually it's a little easier to understand this problem with a graph. So this is the number of, this is my x over here, number of reserved tickets. And again, you could have done it the other way. I just did the way the problem, I did x first, and then whatever came y was second. Number of general admission tickets. So according to this problem already, if I were to graph this, I know my y-intercept is 0, 15. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. This is your b. So let's just say 15's up here. Here, let's go 0, 15, because that's how you should write it as an ordered pair. So that is this y-intercept. So let's talk about what that means. So it helps looking at this graph here. 0 is the x value. So that means that Hannah could buy 0 reserved tickets and 15 general admission, which totally makes sense because 15 times 10 would be $150. So this 15 represents, let's put it right under here, Hannah can buy 15 general admission tickets. But that means she cannot buy, maybe I should just put that 0 reserved. and only spend, remember the constraint, $150. Okay, so that's what our y-intercept. So again, this is our y-intercept, $15, I'm sorry, 15 general admission tickets. Let's talk about the slope. So I notice the slope is going down, okay, because it's a negative slope at 2.5. So we're just going to estimate here. We'll say that's 2.5, a slope of 2.5. Now, what does that exactly mean? And it makes kind of more sense if I put it in a fraction or an improper fraction. So 2.5 would be the same thing as, I'll put a negative there. So the same thing as -5/2. So I think it makes more sense looking at it as an improper fraction than it does actually the decimal. So when I look at that, what this means is for each, remember this is my y value on top and my x value. So for each 5 general admission tickets that I don't buy, that means I can buy 2 reserve tickets. So for each 5, because think about this, 5 tickets, general admission tickets would be $10 each, which make 50. That means less 5 of those, I can buy 2 additional reserve because the reserve are $25 each, and $25 times 2 is 50. So for each, whoops. For each 5 general admission less tickets, Hannah can buy 2 reserved tickets. It's kind of like trading one for the other. 5, if you don't buy 5 admission tickets, which is $10 each, so $50, you can buy 2 reserved tickets. So I guess you could decide if you want 5 of your friends to go and just do general admission, or just 2 of you and your friend and get reserves and maybe get better seats. So that's kind of up to you. So that is what the slope-intercept formed. It gives us our slope and gives us a little more understanding of the problem, gives us an idea of what our y-intercept is and that we could buy 15 general. And then the standard form only tells us the constraint, how much money she could totally spend. Now, going back to the graph here, just kind of messing around, if you were to actually graph us on graph paper, you will notice that it crosses through the point also like 210. That means she can buy 2 reserve tickets and 10 general admission, because this would be $50, and then 10 at $10 would be $100, so that'd be $150. Or she could buy, if you looked at points on this line, 4 or 5. So 4 reserved tickets and 5 general tickets. Again, 4 times 25 is 100, 5 times 10 is 50. There's your 150. And the last one, we'll leave that as a mystery because I think that's what the try it question is. So just understanding slope-intercept form, what it tells you against what it tells you in slope-intercept form versus standard form. They both have their own positive things and negative things. So the try it, again, read it. If you want to try it on your own, please do so. If you're like, nope, can't figure that one out, I'll walk through it with you right now. So pause your video if you want to try it yourself, or continue to listen if you're going to try it with me. So it says those equations, y equals -2.5x plus 15, which is your slope-intercept form, and 25x plus 10x equals 150. That represents this music festival. So the question is it easier to find the x-intercept of the graph in slope-intercept form or in standard form? So I broke them down here. Here's my standard form. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, remember that the y here is always 0, And so technically you're looking for where the x, okay, visually, this is that point I already talked about, we're looking for. So we're looking for, in other words, in this problem, how many reserve tickets she can buy with $150, which I know mathematically you know the answer right away, but let's go through the math. So here's the standard form. I plug 0 in for this y, which 10 times 0 actually cancels that term out. So I have 25x equals 150, divide by 25, and x equals 6. So that's how you find the y-intercept from standard form. From slope-intercept form, again, here is my equation, y equals negative 2.5x plus 15. Again, to find the x-intercept, y is 0. So I went over here and put 0 in for y, and then I solved it like a linear equation. So I subtracted 15 from both sides, got negative 15 equals negative 2.5x divided by negative 2.5, and again, x equals 6. So which one is it easier? That's depending on you. Some people like standard form. It's quicker, it gets, you don't have to do as many steps. Some people understand slope-intercept form, so they think that's easier. And then, of course, the explanation for what we got for an answer is Hannah can buy 6 reserve tickets and 0 admission tickets and spend $150. So that's what the interpretation is. You get to decide how you want to explain it. I don't care which way you find is easier, just in your own world, whatever one makes most sense to you. So going back to this graph right here, we can buy 6 reserve tickets because, of course, 6 times 25 is 150. Next problem. So example number 2, I just have you sketching in standard form. So the graph is 3x minus 2y equals 6. And here's your first step. Since we don't have a slope, we don't have a point, we don't have any of that, what we do find are the y and x intercepts. So that's our first step. So I should say step 1. We're going to find the intercepts. Doesn't matter which one you pick first. I'll just pick the y-intercept first. So to find the y-intercept, just a reminder to you, remember you're going to substitute 0 in for x. And solve for y. Because remember, anything on this line right here, because that's what we're looking for, is where it crosses the y-axis, is always written as 0, as is x, because x is 0 right here. And then what you're looking for is the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So we're going to take the equation, 3x minus 2y equals 9. I'm going to plug in 0 in for the x, because the value of x is 0 on this line, and then I'm just going to solve. So notice that 0 times 3 is going to be 0, so it really cancels out that term. So I end up with negative 2y equals 9. I'm going to divide by negative 2, and it's your choice if you want to leave it as a improper fraction or change it to a decimal. So the answer to this question up here is when x is 0, the y was going to hit at negative 4.5. So we're going to put that point here. So that's 0, negative 4.5. Now, just so you know, you can do this to find any point on a line. So let's say you want to know what the value of x is, or the value of y is when x is 2, then you plug 2 in for x and you find the value of y. You can do it with x, you want to know what y is when x is a negative 500. Again, plug negative 500 in for x and find the y. We just want the y-intercepts and the x-intercept in this case, but you can do that for any type here. So the x-intercept, almost the same idea, but this time we're going to substitute 0 in for y and solve for x. because anywhere on this line this time, the y is 0. So we're going to know what the value of x is, but we know that y is 0. So take our equation. So 3x minus 2 times 0, remember I'm plugging 0 in for y, equals 9. These pretty much cancel out because 2 times 0 is 0, and 3x minus 0 is still going to be 3x, equals 9, divide by 3, so x equals 3. So when y was 0, x is 3. So I can put a point here at 3, 0. So here's my x-intercept I found in the first. Here's my y-intercept, my x-intercept, and then step 2 is, well, I kind of already did it. Plot your intercept, or I'm sorry, plot the x and y intercepts and draw the line through the points. So I already plotted them, so all I have left is to draw the line. And that's it. So go ahead, pause the video if you want to try it on your own. Otherwise, continue to listen to go through one more example. If you pause it, go ahead and do it. Fast forward to the answer. If you get the answer right, then you don't have to go back and listen to what I have to say. So the try it is sketch the graph of 4x plus 5y equals 10. Again, first step is to find the intercepts. So on this side, I found the y-intercept. Remember, the clue is when we're looking for the y-intercept, replace 0 in for x and solve for y. So if you notice, this is the equation. I put 0 in for x, and I went ahead and solved for y, because this would get 0. 5y equals 10. Divide by 5, y is 2. So this point right here on the y-intercept is 2, 0. I'm sorry, I put that backwards. Is 0, 2, because x is 0 and y was 2. Again, x-intercept over here, this time, remember the clue is you put 0 in for y, and you solve for the x value, because that's where it's crossing the x-axis. So I put 0 in for y here. That term, when you add 0, doesn't really mathematically do anything, so I have 4x equals 10, divide by 4, so x is 2.5. So this point down here, it crosses at 2.5, and y is 0. And the last step is plot those points if you haven't already, and then draw the line through the points. So that's how you graph standard form. Again, standard form. Example number 3. We're going to talk about how standard form relates to horizontal and vertical lines. So the first question is, how does the graph of ax plus by look when a equals 0? And you're going to have to write this in. We're going to graph the line 2y equals 6. So we're going to start here with our form, ax plus by equals c. And remember, our question is, how does this relate to horizontal and vertical lines? So in the directions it says a is 0. A is 0, so we're going to put 0 here. And then I notice that I still have 2y equals 6. I'm going to show you kind of how that graph comes, or that equation comes from, because a is 0. 0 times it doesn't even matter what x is, the value is going to be 0. And if I add it to 2y, it's still going to be 2y. So technically, this ends up with 2y equals 6, and divide by 2 on both sides, so y is 6, or y is 3. Now, because there is no value for x, I'll write this down so you have some notes. There is no value for x, x does not or has no effect on the y value or values, because there's more than one. So that means that x has no effect. There is no x. So that means that the value of y is always 3 for every value of x. So again, since there's no value of x, x doesn't have an effect on the y value. So that means for the value of y is always 3 for every value of x, because there's no effect on them. So that means, if x is 0, y has to be 3, because there's 2 value on the x has no effect of the y value. Y is always going to be 3. Let's say x is 4, no effect, y has to be 3. X is 6, no effect, y has to be 3. X is -5, y has to be a -3. I'm sorry, +3. So we could do this over and over and over and over. Every time you plug in an x, since it has no effect, it says right here y is equal to 3. That means we're going to have a line that goes through, I can't get it perfect, through the points where y is 3. So the question is, how does the graph of ax plus by equals c look when a is 0? Well, you can see the graph. Whoops, I forgot to change it. The graph is a horizontal line. That's the answer to the question. So when a is 0, in other words, when it comes down to be y equals something, the line is horizontal. Okay, same question on b here, except for this time, instead of a equaling 0, b is going to equal 0. So we have ax plus by equals c in standard form. This time, oops, I forgot to put the equation. So we're going to graph 3x equals -6. So we're going to go back here. And the a in this case, you can see it, a. So it's 3x plus, the directions already told me b is 0 equals, and the c in this time, or the constraint, is -6. So 0 times whatever value of y that's going to be is going to be 0, and adding 0 mathematically does nothing. So we end up with 3x equals -6, which is what I told you to graph. Divide by 3, so x is a -2. So again, I'll write it down so you have some notes here. There is no value for y, so y has no effect on the x values. So the value of x is -2 for every value of y. So if we graph that, again, y has no effect on the x values. So every x I give you, every y I give you, the value of x is 2. So I said, let's see a graph where y is 5. Well, x is a -2. Or if I say y is a -3, well, x is a -2. I mean, and you can tell that from just looking at the equation. When y is 0, x is a -2. When y is 2, x is a -2. When y is -6, x is a -2. Notice we are making a line. We call these points collinear. They're in a line. So we connect these. You notice that the question is, what does the graph of ax plus by equals c look like when b is 0? You graph a vertical line. So x equals is a vertical line, y equals is a horizontal line. So go ahead, try it on your own on the tryouts. If you don't feel confident enough, you can watch me go through 2 more examples. So here's your tryout. Your equation is 3y equals negative 18. Again, I kind of went through it. This time x is 0, so these kind of cancel out. So 3y equals negative 18, divide by 3. Y equals negative 6. That means whatever value that I put in for x, y is always going to be a negative 6. So notice that every line here, of course, is going to be horizontal. Y equals a horizontal. If I plug in 6, no effect on the y is negative 6. If I plug in negative 4 for x, y is a negative 6 because there's no effect. The x has no effect on it. Again, down here, 4x equals 12. So if we start with the standard form, this time there's no y value. So 0 times y is 0. So technically we have 4x equals 12. Divide by 4, x equals 3. So every value of y I put in there has no effect on the x because x is always going to be 3. So if I talk about negative 5 as my y value, x has to be 3. If I pick y as my 1, or y equals 1, x has to be negative or positive 3 because there's no effect. If y is 6, x is 3 because there is no effect there. So notice that the x equaled, again, made a vertical line, and the y equals make horizontal lines. The last example here is the storyline. So how can we use standard form to solve some problems? So it says Tamira is making a trail mix. She has $40 to spend on the mixture of almonds and cashews and wants the same amount of almond and cashews in her mixture. How can she, apologize about that, how can she determine how many pounds of each nut to buy? So we're going to formulate. We got to decide which one is our x and which one is our y. Since the almonds are over here on the left side, we'll just make that our x. So almonds is what we're looking for, the number of pounds of almonds. And we'll make y the number of pounds of cashews. So now I know x is the unknown in pounds of almonds, y is the unknown pounds of cashews. Our equation would be, so she only has $40 to spend, so we know that's our constraint. And almonds, it looks like by the diagram here, is $8 per pound. So this is going to be the total cost of almonds, plus it looks like $10 a pound for the cashews. And that would give us our equation. So this is the cost, I should say total cost of the almonds. This is the total cost of the cashews. And this is what she wants to spend. So total cost altogether. So the easiest way to do this is to graph it. And then we'll solve here. So this is the number of pounds. This is the x side, so this would be of almonds. And over here is the number of pounds of cashews. So let's solve what we get. So remember, in standard form, the only way we can graph this is if we find the x and y intercepts. So to solve, we have to find the intercepts. So we'll find the y first. So remember, in the y-intercept, x is 0, and you're looking for the y value. So you're going to plug 0 in for x. So this is our equation. So 0 times 8 plus 10y equals 40. 0 times 8 is 0. Add 0 is going to do nothing. So we're going to end up with 10y equals 40. Divide by 10, y equals 4. So my y-intercept is 0, 4. Okay, let's go ahead and do the x-intercept. Again, remember, if we're looking for the x-intercept, not intercepts, intercepts, y is 0. So we're going to input 0 in for the y. So again, our equation is 8x plus 10y equals 40. 8x plus 10 equals 0. So 10 times 0 is 0. So add 0 is going to do nothing. So it's going to be 8x equals 40. Divide by 8. Divide by 8. X equals 5. So this one is 5, 0. So that second step is to go ahead and plot those. So if I buy 5 pounds of almonds, I've used up all my money, which that totally mathematically makes sense because it's $8 per pound. So 8 times 5 is the $40 that I have to spend. And then over here, if I buy 4 pounds of cashews and 0 pounds of almonds, 40 times $10 works. But the question is not how many of only cashews or only almonds can I buy. I want to know kind of a mixture of the two. So this one takes a little bit of kind of looking, eyeballing it. Again, this is 0 almonds and 4 pounds of cashews. This is 5 pounds of almonds and 0. I want to know a good mixture between the two. So 1 pound looks about 3 over 3. I'm down here, 4 pounds look about 1. 3 pounds look about 1 and a little over half. So we're going to kind of get closer here. Here's 2 and 2. Okay, so kind of looks like it would be about right there. So this kind of takes some estimating. We can check, but it looks somewhere around 2.25 of each. 2.25, and this is a hard, because it could be a tenth off one way or the other. So if we try the math here, so let's interpret a little bit, do some math here before we get a final answer. If I take 2.5 times 8, because that's how much it costs for the almonds, that is 2 times 8 is 16 a half, so that'd be $20. And then 2.5 times $10 is $25. So technically we're a little off. Okay, so let's go back to our graph. Let's see if we can find something any better. What about 2? And 2, I don't know, it almost looks like 2.4. It's not quite 5. Or if we go over here, 2.5. So let me write those down so we don't forget here. But we're going to try a couple new points. So 2 pounds of almonds. I know this isn't exact, but it said about the same. Or let's go 2.5, because we know off the other two, the 2.25 didn't work, or the 2.5 didn't work. So let's go 2.5, and that almost looks like 2. So 2 and 2.5. So 2 times 8 equals $16 for the almonds, and 2.4 times 10 equals $24 for the cashews, and that equals $40. So there's one option. We'll try the other option here. 2 times, was it 2.5? Is that right? No, I'm sorry, 2.5 times 8. Just 2.5 pounds of almonds at $8 would make, again, 20. And then 2 pounds at $10 each of cashews would make 20. So I know those aren't exact, but they're pretty close. So my interpretation is, and you can pick one or the other, you don't have to write them both down. We'll say Tamara, and I think this is closer, can buy 2 pounds of almonds and 2.4 pounds of cashews. For her mix. Again, remember, any point on this line is going to be the $40. That's the constraint. So any point you can find is a combination of almonds and cashews pounds that would equal $40. Okay, try the next problem. Again, you can try it on your own, or you can listen to the video and watch me walk through another problem. So same problem, but this time notice it's $60. So my formula looks about the same. I'm going to use X for the pounds of almonds again, Y for the pounds of cashews. My equation is 8X plus 10Y equals 60. Your first step is to find your X and Y intercept. So Y-intercept, X is 0, so I plug 0 in here for the X. That kind of cancels out because 8 times 0 is 0, and adding that to 10Y keeps still 10Y. Divide by 10, so the Y-intercept is 6. Over here, the X-intercept, this time Y is 0, and you're looking for the X value. So down here, I put 0 in for the Y. 10 times 0 is 0. Add it to 8X, still gives you 8X equals 60. Divide, and I get 7.5. So again, we can graph those. So 0 pounds of almonds and 6 pounds of cashews, which totally makes sense because 6 times 10 is the 60. And then down here, 7.5 times 8 would give you 60. So any combination on this line is $60 worth of almonds and cashews. If we go back up to the question, how many nuts can she buy if she only buys cashews? How many pounds if she only buys almonds? And then a mixture of both. So we've answered the first two. Cameron can buy 6 pounds if she only buys cashews. Cameron can buy 7.5 pounds if she only buys almonds. The question is approximately the same. So again, you're going to kind of 7.5. It's a little over 3. So I put a point there, and I thought it was 3 1/3 and 3 1/3. And so if you take 3 1/3 times 8, and you add that to 3 1/3 times 10, it actually does come up with that $60. So she can buy 3.5 pounds of each for a mixture of the same amount. Again, this video was about standard form. Please Google me, email me, ask lots of questions if you're struggling with the idea of the standard form.